Good afternoon, and welcome back to another episode of Living in My Mind. My name's Dennis Henning. I'm the host, and as I always say, there's a number below. If you need some help, you want some information, you'd like to share your thoughts, please do. That would be very nice to interact with people and hear what everybody has to say. Today, I want to talk about something that we all go through, and it's called grief and loss. And it could be for anything. It's not just about somebody's death. Someone could lose their wallet, and it means more to them because of what's in it, as opposed to someone whose family member died or an animal died. Grief and loss is difficult because many times we allow ourselves to stay in that grief and loss period for a long time. And what happens is, and I'm giving my personal experience, then we use that type of whatever word you want to use. I could use different words for it. That situation, that emotional disconnection, the anger that comes with it, the loneliness, the isolation, the blame games when things happen. We use it to stay in a frame of mind that we become a victim based upon what somebody else has gone through. Good example, my mother passed away in April of 2023. And the last couple of months have just been a nightmare for me. And it's been a while. And I talked about this before. And I think sometimes I don't say anything to my mom. I don't have conversations. It's like, what a shitty person. But that's not the reality. And it affected me with some work I was doing for people who had brought me on board. And we sat down and talked and we cleared things up. There's things I need to do. But in my mind, I just couldn't function. Night times were horrible. Going to bed at night hoping that, I wake up in the morning because only God knows what's going to happen. You start getting lonely, you start isolating, you start thinking, well, Jesus, if my mother was my true best friend, my mother was my friend. I'm single, I don't have a family. I got my brother, he's got his kids and stuff. But when you're by yourself, a lot of times you think, gee, if I go to bed at night, if I don't wake up, is anybody going to ever notice? Anybody going to ever care? Sure, people will, but they'll move on. And I think many of us don't know and realize, I know, when we lose somebody, it's a very interesting thing that you go through. The person's gone. They'll never be here. You can't talk to them. You can't see them. You can't enjoy the things. You have memories, whether you have photos or videos, or you have memories in your mind. And to a point, there's this settling feeling that it's a relief. In my situation, my brother and his wife and his kids took care of my mom all the time. I helped with the financial stability. I was pretty much a coward because I hated to go see my mom. And I'm very honest about it because I couldn't handle seeing her. It was so sad and depressing. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't help her. But I knew when I saw her, her face lit up. We had fun. My mother and I were the same sarcastic people to each other. We had a beautiful time. And now that she's gone, I miss those times. And it's hard to get things back once they're gone. It's like relationships. People love each other. Look, people don't get a divorce or relationship ends because 95% of it is great. It's the 5% that goes wrong, whether it's a lie, whether someone cheats, whether someone doesn't trust somebody, whether somebody finds somebody else, whether somebody's unavailable emotionally. There's so many different reasons. But when it comes to the grief and loss of losing someone, I think people need to understand that when you lose someone, it's okay to feel whatever you want. But the one thing we have to come to terms with is it's never going to change. So we've got to move on. We've got to continue working, taking care of ourselves, expand whatever it is we're doing when it comes to emotional clarity about the situation. I work with a lot of people who deal with a lot of loss, grief and loss over many different things. And the one thing I always listen to and I hear is that, well, I wish I could have done something, or what could I have done? What did I do wrong? I wish I could tell the person this. I wish I could do this. Wishes are nice, but make sure that with its family, friends, people you don't like, whatever the situations, if they're in your life, let them know you care. Let them know you love them. Tell them what you need to tell them, because when they're gone, they knew that you had something with them. They knew how you felt about them. Don't wait till it's too late. Look, I've always talked about there's two guys in my life, been there for 40 years in the past. They're not in my lives anymore. I could care less whatever happens to them. I get black and white with certain things. There's no gray area once you cross a line. And I don't care. And I have no remorse. I have no bad feelings. I've told people in their lives, when they pass, I don't want to know. And they were both like brothers for a period of time. But certain things you just have to have boundaries. Many of us don't have boundaries. We always have this thing that we hope something's going to change. We hope that things are going to be different. And the one thing I learned with my mother passing away is it's finite. And what I'm getting at is we have relationships with people and they end, whether it's business, whether it's personal, whatever the relationship is. When people break up, I know I went through that with someone that I spent some time with. And then there was always in the back of my mind, well, what if I meet her again? What if I talk to her? Would it be the same? Well, it was like you have this hope, and we always live with hope that something's going to happen. So therefore, we hope tomorrow it changes. I lived 20 years of my life, or even longer, where it's always about tomorrow. We might not be here tomorrow. We might not be guaranteed. Do the things you need to do. But when it comes to the grief, allow yourself to grieve. Get the help you need. Talk to somebody. It doesn't mean a therapist. Look, there are great therapists and there are shit therapists. I know that because I work with a lot of therapists. Doesn't mean any of them are going to give you answers that you really want. Because like I tell people, they write a book. They know how to do it. Whether or not they have the ability to be kind and understanding is a whole different ballgame. But talk to people. Don't go, oh, here's my best friend. Always loves to come be in the show with me. You're so precious. And the reality is, you just have to continue doing the things you know that work for you. And it's very important. Got a little animal here. I got to tell you, animals are the greatest gift. They're just wonderful. They're nurturing. They're innocent. And they don't judge you. As long as you feed them, they're your best friend. And what happens when we get involved with other people who think like us when it comes to negative thoughts, or people who just don't do what they need to do, people who are selfish and self-centered, sometimes then we take on those characteristics. Don't try to be the macho man or woman if someone's gone, if you lose somebody, if someone ends. What kills me about men, and usually it's a lot of men, women have their own way of doing it too, is I talk to men and a relationship ended, all they do is badmouth the woman. This and that. Well, it takes two to tango. I've never really come across any relationship where it's just one person who did it. There's always a combination of something that happened that you have to really take a look at. And I think it's important that we understand that we can't always be what everybody wants us to be. People want you to be strong. People want you to stand up. They want you to be brave when something negative happens. Let yourself crumble. Let yourself cry. Let yourself fucking not get out of bed for a while. Eat whatever the hell you want. But sooner or later, you're the only person that can pull yourselves up. Don't lose the opportunities you have because of something that's happened negative to you. And we've all done that. The last 2 months, I could have lost a lot of things in my life, and I sit back and I realize, shit, if I lose that, what am I going to do? What the hell am I going to do? And I'm blessed to be surrounded by good people that I do consulting with, who look at me as a person, not just as someone who does the work with them. And I've learned from them. I've also learned that it's great to have people in your life who are friends and people who love you. Could be two different things. Someone truly loves you, they're going to have your best interest at hand. But what they're also going to do is tell you exactly what they need to tell you and how you perceive them to say it, however you take it. A friend of mine once said to me, she goes, Dennis, that's a you thing. I think it's one of the best statements. Ooh, look at the paw. One of the best statements is it's a you thing. This cat has some really sharp teeth too. Just want to share that with you. And when it's a you thing, it's not about us. It's always interesting when people want to give us advice and we don't ask for it. We've all done that. So step back. If someone's having a bad day, talk to them, share with them, laugh with them. Don't give them advice unless they ask you. Because when it comes to grief and loss, everybody has their own way. I said earlier, about someone losing a wallet. Look, if you lose your wallet and it's got your credit cards, your cash and everything in it, and you don't know where it is, then you have to panic. You got to shut everything off. And this happens. To some people, that's more tragic than maybe somebody else's family member passing away. Or a good example, animals. I've come across so many people that the animals mean more to them than their family, friends, and anybody. And when the animals have passed, the depression they've gone to is real. Because that animal relied on them. That animal was their best friend. That animal comforted them. But another thing you have to realize too, when you say that an animal is your best friend, it says a lot about you. You're not willing to grow. You're not willing to take chances. You're not willing to be challenged. You don't want yourself to be happier than you are at the moment. And we all get there. It's another, it's the same thing happening. It's like, Groundhog's Day, same thing every day. Give yourself a break. But when you lose someone, I think the most important thing for me, when I say think, I know, is the fact that I have all these great memories. And I know that my mother would be proud of me. And my mother would say, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. Do this. Do this. And it would always be about me bettering myself. So when you're going through something, allow yourself to go through it. But then when it becomes an excuse that we use and we become a victim of somebody else passing away, and anybody tells me they're not, when my mother passed away, I was in a victim mode. Well, woe is me. I can't do this. I could make excuses because it was my mother. I could say somebody. And then these issues I was going through the last couple of months, I realized, shit, I got to pull my head out of my ass. Tell the people, here's the situation. Not use it as an excuse because it's real, but now do what I need to do. And I think everybody has that opportunity. Everybody can. No matter what we're doing in life, you think about this. They just had the NBA draft. And you have a young man who was drafted because his father. Now you think about this. Was he ready for the NBA? Who knows? Nepotism? Of course. But if you look at it this way, there's only 2 rounds in the NBA draft. I believe there's 60 picks. I'm not sure how many. But there are other guys who worked harder to deserve his opportunity. You have all these sports announcers stating, well, if anybody deserved to have nepotism, it's LeBron James. If anybody deserved this, it's all done on merit. But the reality is this kid got an opportunity. You wish him the best. You don't know what's going to happen. But when someone says that you deserve something based upon somebody else, it doesn't work that way in life. The kid doesn't deserve to be drafted. The kid did not earn to be drafted. It's nepotism, and there's nepotism in everything. But here's the thing that kills me. People always say, well, what about this? What about that? Well, we're not talking about other people. We're talking about this situation. Look at this man's well-being, young man's well-being, and if he doesn't succeed, going to be a laughing stock. And people will laugh. It doesn't matter who his dad is, how much money his father has. His father's earned it. LeBron James earned every damn dime. That's not the issue. But again, if you look at this from a selfless point of view or a selfish point of view, that if you're selfish, you want what he wanted his son to play. If you're selfless, you'd have said, maybe go to school another year, get better, build up your stock, do whatever. Not everybody and their mother knows the only reason the kid got drafted is because who his father is. There's it. Then you can always, the great thing about media, and Google, you got a question, ask Google, or even AI. It'll give you an answer, whether it's right or wrong, who the hell knows? But you can always back up what you think, especially like we have the politics out there now. We have the speeches. We have the debates. Everybody wins in anything. You can always figure out something that's going to benefit you. Doesn't mean it's real, doesn't mean it's true. But it's just like grief and loss. Grief and loss happens because of things that are out of our control at times. If you do something bad and you deserve it, like when I got in trouble, I did it. I deserved the consequences. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. So any grief or loss I had over anything was based on me. Not somebody else did something. Nobody else took anything away from me. I did something that could have cost me my freedom, and it should have. But I was blessed, and people think this might be odd because of COVID. It didn't happen. But that was grief and loss based upon me. But when someone's passing away or something we can't control, we have grief and loss over. You have to sit back and figure out, how are you going to control your emotions? How are you going to move forward? I'm always amazed, and I say amazed because I just don't get it at times, when someone says to me, how am I going to live without that person? In my industry, I have to read biopsychosocials, and I have to read histories, and people are saying, I can't live without this person. The person's been beating him and lying to him, stealing from him from years. Or someone's pimping somebody out. Well, he loves me, or she loves me. You don't understand. I always love when someone says, you don't understand. You're damn fucking right I don't understand. What's the mind frame of somebody? They have lost something along the way. Whether it's self-esteem, self-love, self-respect, the ability to believe they need somebody in their life. They believe they need somebody good. A lot of people, and I see it every day where, well, I don't deserve this. Look, I deserve the best in life no matter what. I deserve to be happy. But if I'm not happy, pretty good chance it's based upon me and my choices. Now, all this has to do with grief and loss because we all handle grief and loss differently. Grief and loss, as I said before, is not about death. It's about right or wrong. And when I say right or wrong, people are like, what do you mean by right or wrong? What's the right thing for you to do when you come into grief and loss? I don't know. What's the wrong thing to do? Be a victim. Pity yourself. Not do your job. Lie to people. Use people. Use whatever that situation is to benefit yourself. By not going to work, by wanting people to feel sorry for you, telling stories, trying to get people in to feel, oh, you poor baby. So many people do that. One of these pieces of crap that I said that I no longer speak to, that's what he would do. Just bring people in and manipulate, lie, do everything he can. That's who he is. He's never going to change. He's sick. That's who he is. And we all have people like that in our lives. That's what they do. So, grief and loss is very important for us to understand. It's not just about death. It's about anything and everything that makes us feel as if we can't go on. It makes us feel as if we're less than. What did I do wrong? What could I have done different? It happens all the time. There's a young girl that I just spoke with recently. Her boyfriend's in prison. He went to prison, not a good guy, seen the text messages and everything, calling her names, this and that, but she loves him because he's the only man that's ever been good to her. So I asked her about family. Then you see why. Father overbearing. Mother never had a chance to say anything. The kids were all beaten down verbally their whole life, so she picked someone that sad expression, just like dear old dad. Well, she is waiting for this guy to get out of prison. Only God knows what's happened. So there's certain people we can't save, but I can guarantee you this one thing, we can save ourselves. It's very hard to get out of situations that we're in. People are born into situations. They're born into environments. They're born into families. No one wants to betray their family. You're not betraying anybody by trying to better yourself. You're not betraying anybody by standing up for yourself. So many people stay in situations because someone's helping them financially. Mom, dad, a boyfriend, a husband, sugar daddy, sugar baby, sugar mama, whatever the fudge you want to call them. Because they don't believe they could do any better. Or they don't know they could do any better because of their upbringing. But after a certain time, it's like that old saying, touch a stove how many times? You're going to figure out it's pretty hot. You stick your finger in a light socket, you're going to figure out you get electrocuted. You stand in the middle of the freeway, pretty good chance you get hit by a car. You pull a gun and shoot yourself, pretty good chance it's going to hurt. So we already know answers to things like that. But again, many of us are born to suffer because there's all these statements, well, you got to go through the bad before you get to the good. Why? Why can't it just be good off the start? You got to suffer in order to feel what other people, I don't give a fuck. I don't want to feel what other people feel because I don't know what other people feel. I'm always interested when I talk to people and someone says, I know exactly what you're talking about. My sister-in-law, my brother's first wife, passed away, and I was with someone at a restaurant, and I've talked about this before. We're sitting and talking, and she goes, I know what you're going through. And I said, oh, really? What happened? She goes, well, I had a boyfriend that I loved to death, and when we broke up, I never got a chance to talk to him again. I said, so how does that equate? She goes, well, I'll never see him again. I said, so he's still alive? She said, yes. I said, you still have the ability to reach out to him? Do you know where he lives? Yes. Do you family? I paid and I walked and got in a taxi and went home. At that time, there were taxis. They didn't have Uber Drive and all that. What's the one you used today, Mark, where there's nobody in it?
I used Waymo today.
Waymo. Yeah, Waymo. There's another interesting one. But the bottom line is, people think that they know what to say. And I learned once my mother passed away that I got so angry at some people. Like I was just saying earlier today, some girl I know today, a woman, asked me how my mom was. She knew my mom. She knew my mother passed away. And it was like, okay, but then again, that's okay because it's not her responsibility to remember my mother passed away. You would think someone would think that. So I got angry at people. I couldn't believe it. But then I realized that people say things that they're not trying to be rude. They're not trying to be mean. They're not trying to be disrespectful. Sometimes we just don't know what to say. We honestly don't. So do we keep our mouth shut? If you have that problem, just say something. Look, I don't know what to say. I just let you know I love you. That's a great statement. I always find it so annoying when it says, you can talk to your mom. Well, I can talk to Jesus. Never met the man. Hello? We can talk to whoever we want in our head. We can believe in whoever we want faith-wise. We can believe in whoever we want business-wise. We can always state, this is the best person for us to be elected president. This is the best person. Everybody has what they believe are their opinions. And that's when it comes to grief and loss. Everybody handles it differently. Everybody handles it differently. Let the people, when they're going through grief and loss, let them handle it. If you see something's going bad, if you see they're going down the wrong street, it's if they're in a car. Maybe you didn't get that one? Okay. If you see that they're doing something spiraling out of control, step in. But let them grieve. Don't ever tell them you need to get over it. Don't ever tell them everything's going to be all right. It will never be all right again. It will never, ever in your whole fucking life be all right again. It just won't. Every day you hope to get better, but every day you also can use that. My mother's passing has taught me a lot of things. That I'm alone, number one, because now that's the one person I can go to, like I said earlier, blah, blah, blah. So in order for me to move forward, I have to do it. It's made me a stronger person. It's made me more aware of people in my life, who I want in my life, who I don't want in my life. It's made me more honest to myself. It's made me a better person. And it's also allowed me to take a look at work I do and realize I only got today. So if someone's trusting me to do something, I need to do it today. I can't have excuses anymore. I lived my whole life with excuses. Like I said before, every other day was an excuse. And the passing of someone teaches us something. What each of us learn from it, I don't know. I learned that it's okay to cry. Hell, I cry all the time. Literally. Hell, I cry at cartoons because there's some really sad cartoons. I cry at videos. That's just who I am. I don't care if you judge me. I don't give a shit if you like it or not. I don't care if you think it's macho or unmacho. It's tears. And they're real. One thing with me, I only cry when either it's very hurt or if I get so angry that I can't go any further with it. And now I realize it's okay to have those moments where I'll start crying and 2 minutes later, I'll be done. Then I think, what the hell am I crying about? Then I realize it's something, it's an emotion, it's a feeling, it's a loss. It's something right at that moment that affects me. And I'm okay with that. I literally am okay with it. I just think it's a wonderful thing because it's a cleansing thing for the soul. It's just a good feeling. Losing someone you love is never easy. And I think we all know that. Also, many times when we lose people, one of the first things people say is, well, the person was this, the person was that, the person did this, the negative thing. I'm surprised how many people that I've known in my life where someone has died in their family. Well, the family's good riddance. Well, okay, that's good. The family this, the family that. Even if the person wasn't a good person. My father, I met twice in my life, not a great man. I have remorse that he died. I'm sad that he died because I never got to know him. I know the bad things. I never know any good things because I never got a chance. So I can still have sadness and loneliness losing somebody who might not have been a good person, who might not have been the greatest person in the world. But it's okay for me to feel for them. It's okay for me to feel bad because I know one thing, I work with a lot of people. You hear a lot of stories, you wonderful people, and then all of a sudden you find out some kid passed away or somebody committed suicide. And, well, the dumbass, he should have known. No. I deal with insurance companies that I swear to God, these are some of the evil people. The doctors will say, well, they haven't gotten cleans over 5 years. What makes you think they're going to do it now? It's not you as a doctor's. It's not your responsibility to say what they're going to do now. It's an illness. It's a sickness. But again, when grief and loss happens, think about this. One thing in my field, when someone starts, it's kind of like anything. It's like with eating disorders. Someone with an eating disorder is someone who abuses food as an emotional, to deal with emotional pain. That's a simple way. There's more to it. But if you don't know what to do, you're going to go to something that feels good. So many people I talk to when they stop drinking or doing drugs or what have you, they feel a sense of loss, grief and loss, because that was their friend. That took care of them. That made them feel better. Even if it was momentarily, it made them. So if a facility or a therapist or somebody's going to help you, they have to replace whatever that is that made you feel good with something different, something you can relate to, something you could really look at and say, yeah, this makes me feel better. And who knows what it is. You have so many support systems that are out there, and they're great. And they all talk about grief and loss in a different way. And what you should do, the 12-step program, wonderful group of people to a degree. OA, NA, AA, whatever you want to go to. There's a lot of support. But the only person who's going to make the difference is you. If you're losing whatever it is you're addicted to, if you're losing that, you've got to take the time to find something to replace it. Might never give you the same high, because if you think about it, those of us who are addicts, it's at that moment that we get that pleasure. And then when that high is gone, health, physical and medical, everything goes down the toilet. Relationships end. Many people, I've said this before, went to court with a woman who had her third DUI. She hit a guy on PCH Highway. She says to the judge, well, Judge, he wouldn't have died if he wasn't on the PCH Highway at 3 a.m. Wow. You talk about someone who's void of any common sense or anything that's reality, and she stuck to it. She freaking stuck to that. No remorse because it wasn't her fault. And this was her third or fourth DUI. Someone like that, that's, to me, that's evil. And people always want, what's evil? Well, I think evil is the absence of God in your life, or if you don't choose God. It might be spirituality or something like that. It's an absence of something, because there are evil people, selfish, self-centered people like that. Grief and loss to her, I can imagine. I just can imagine how this lady would take anything. She was so far gone that she had no remorse. She had no concern for others. Now, her story, there's some understanding why, but that's not an excuse, what she went through, because she was at a rehab that I worked with years ago. When we decide, and a lot of it's a decision, I think I know with myself, I'm a very calculated human being. If I said that word correctly, it's kind of like discombobulated. I pretty much know what's going to happen before I walk into a room. I know how I'm going to respond. I know who I'm going to talk to. I know exactly what I want them to say. You know. I mean, and that's part of knowing how to work, knowing and trusting what you believe in and believing what you have to offer, and also manipulating a situation to where everybody can win. And again, just because someone owns a company or someone is a therapist, someone's a doctor, or someone's a politician, or someone has accomplished something that you haven't, never, ever are they a better person than you. You're equal. I always tell people, no one's better than me, and I'm no better than others. And I'm not. We might be equal, we might not, but I don't go looking. So what I'm getting at is, when someone gives me advice, I take it for what it is. Can I learn from it? Can I learn from their advice? If I can, I say, thank you very much. Didn't work for me, but I really appreciate it. Now, there are people going to be pissed off because they think they know all the answers. Hell, I don't know all the answers. All I know is what I know and what I hope to learn. I hope to learn from people on a day-to-day basis. Grief and loss is not something that's easy. Losing a family member is hell. Again, it's never going to change. They're never going to come back. And I don't just mean family member. It could be your best friend. It could be an animal. It's whatever or however you're dealing with it. Give yourself an opportunity to be honest with yourself. Please. Deal with it the best way you can, but don't become a victim of it. Don't start the lying, the manipulation, all the things that we can do, and I've done in my life. Because it's an opportunity for us to get attention when someone passes away, or the dog is gone, or whatever the situation. We get attention. Oh, God, it's okay. No, it's not okay. You need to continue. You need to move on. You need to move forward. It's when people pass away in relationships and someone says, I'm never going to marry again. Do you think the person that you were in love with and the person who loved you would want you to be alone? What are you proving? I have someone I work with, and we were talking about integrity, and he's amazing integrity. But his integrity is to the point where he's willing to jeopardize himself and his family because of other people on the outside. He doesn't want something to happen negative for them, so he's willing to bite the bullet with them when they're not doing their job. You can't do that. You just can't. But I just wanted to talk about this today, and hopefully people get an understanding, and maybe you relate to it, maybe you don't, maybe somebody does, but if you do, just reach out. If you want to, there's a number here you can call, you can text, and I appreciate your time. And believe me, I know from the way I talk, there's a lot of people who are just like me, and we all need some place to vent or some place to ask questions. The last little bit of advice I can give you is, unless somebody asks you, just listen to what they have to say. Sometimes that's all we want. We don't want your advice. We don't want your input. We just don't. And guys, let me give you another. This is when a lot of women talk to you, they didn't ask you for your advice. They didn't ask you to solve a problem. 99% of women can solve a problem better than most of us men. Just listen. That's all we have to do. So hopefully you've heard what I said. Have a beautiful day. This is Dennis Henning, and thank you for listening and watching.